My husband Brian had sex with a woman under the white moonlight and contracted AIDS. He kept it a secret from me until after our child was born. When the doctor conducted a physical examination and I learned the truth. As the one who started this disaster, he felt no guilt or remorse. He insisted that Bonnie was innocent and instead suspected that I was the unclean one. Bonnie had always cherished herself. But this child was truly mine. In order to hide the truth about the child's illness and save face, they took my daughter, who was only a few days old, and killed her while I was sleeping. Claiming she had tragically died at birth, I was in a daze after suffering blow after blow. On my way to see my daughter, I was hit and killed by an oncoming truck. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the time before I was infected with AIDS. Brian, be gentle. It hurts. Bonnie's coquettish voice rang in my ears, snapping me back to reality. Pain still lingered on my body. Looking around, I was standing in the hotel corridor, holding the room card for room 5082 in my hand. I quickly took out my phone, and the date confirmed my guess. I had been reborn. Reborn on the very day Brian contracted AIDS. On that day in my previous life, I had received a text from Brian asking me to book a room. At the time, I was in shock and didn't think twice before rushing to the hotel, hoping to catch him cheating. The sounds coming from the room were unmistakable. Bonnie's moans of pain mixed with flirtatious gasps. I couldn't bear it anymore. I turned on the video recorder on my phone and barged in. Brian, is this your so-called ordinary friend? Inside, Brian was rubbing Bonnie's white calves with a bottle of safflower oil. Both were startled by my sudden entrance. Seeing me filming, Bonnie blushed. Sister Callista, did you misunderstand something? Brian stood up, frowning with displeasure. You make a scene every day. Aren't you ashamed of barging into a hotel like this? He grabbed my hand, dragged me downstairs, and angrily questioned the front desk. Who gave you the right to give a guest's room card to someone else? Bonnie pulled at his sleeve and said, Forget it, Brian. Sister Callista came because she cares about you. But those words only made Brian angrier. You call this caring? You just want to embarrass me, he yelled at me. Apologize to Bonnie, or this isn't over. You trespassed. Should I call the police and report the hotel? The hotel staff panicked and pleaded with me. Miss Callista, since you said you're Mr. Brian's wife, we thought it would be okay to help you. I didn't want to get innocent people in trouble. So I lowered my head and apologized in public, my voice trembling. Even though I was in the right, I was made to look like the one at fault. This time, I won't be so foolish. In my past life, I overlooked something crucial. Brian may be a bad man, but he's not a freeloader. He always paid for the rooms himself and never wanted me to know about them. So how did that text about the hotel booking end up on my phone? I tapped the number in the message and called it. A phone rang inside the room. Who is it? Brian asked. Just a spam call, Bonnie replied, hanging up the phone. My phone went dead. Busy tone. It was her. In my previous life, I swallowed my pride and looked up to see Bonnie smirking at me. I had thought she was marking her territory. But in truth, she was mocking me for falling into her trap. Everything went as she planned. After that failed confrontation at the hotel, Brian didn't even pretend to be kind to me. 3 nights later, he came home drunk, threw himself on me, and ignored my struggles. He pinned me down, held my wrists with one hand, and touched me with the other. I resisted, but he was too strong. That night, I got pregnant, without even realizing it. I couldn't bear to end the life growing inside me, so I chose to keep the baby. Brian's attitude shifted slightly after he found out. He even asked his mother to help care for me. But after my daughter died, I overheard a conversation revealing that his mother had always known about Brian and Bonnie's affair. She was there not to help me, but to ensure I didn't watch Brian too closely. This family was rotten to the core. I want all of them to suffer, to be buried alongside my daughter. I could hear their flirtatious voices again from the room. I sneered and walked away. Brian's fate was his own doing. I was no longer involved. I knew for certain Bonnie infected him for 2 reasons. First, we had undergone physical exams just the day before, and both results were normal. There was only 1 week between that and my pregnancy. Except for that night, Brian was always with me. Second, I had seen Bonnie entering hotels with different men. Coincidentally, the receptionist at a small hotel was a longtime friend of mine. She once confided in me, saying she suspected Bonnie of doing illicit work because she regularly booked rooms with different men, all of whom behaved intimately with her. The photo she sent me was of Bonnie. Of course I knew her. She was the girl Brian kept hidden in his private photo album, protected by a password, his birthday. I was so shocked, I nearly dropped my phone. I thought I had finally caught Bonnie red-handed and that Brian would give her up. But I was wrong. Very, very wrong. Callista, how did Bonnie offend you that you find ways to slander her every day? Or are you jealous of her because she has a better figure and looks than you? Don't think you have a dirty heart and see everything as dirty. You lie so easily. You didn't really do it, did you? He looked at me up and down with contempt and disgust, and took a few steps back, as if I were a dirty thing. In the following months, whenever there was an argument between us, he would bring up this matter and scold me again. It was as if this was my lifelong evidence of guilt that could never be erased or washed away. But I only told Brian the facts without exaggerating. What I said was just my own guess. My original intention was to give him a kind reminder. Since he was a traitor and didn't trust me at all, there was naturally no need for me to be the good guy. This time, I would watch him get infected with AIDS with a cold eye and make him regret it. I turned around and left the hotel, went home and started to pack my things. If I didn't escape now, when would I? That night, Brian and I got what we wanted. Brian and Bonnie spent a good night together, and I sent Brian a notice that I wanted to divorce him. Brian didn't respond for a long time. Maybe he was busy making love and had no time to read it. 3. In fact, in my previous life, when I found that Brian still had Bonnie in his heart, I proposed a divorce to Brian. Since he liked Bonnie so much, I could fulfill their wish. After all, I didn't want to make myself angry all day long, but Brian thought it would not look good if the divorce was spread. So he made an agreement with me. On the surface, we maintained the name of husband and wife. No one needs to care about the other in private. He was firm in his attitude. I had no choice. Besides, I thought I could achieve my goal this way. So I agreed. This left a hidden danger for the pregnancy later. In this life, I must divorce him no matter what. I must not make the same mistake again. The next morning, I immediately went to find a lawyer. After consulting on everything, Brian bombarded me with a series of messages. Didn't you just work overtime all night? I reported it to you. What are you making a fuss about? We have already talked about this matter before. Why did it come up again? I sent him a screenshot of the text message for booking a room, and considerately circled the phone number in red. 20 minutes later, Brian sent me a message saying go home and sign it. A trace of doubt flashed through my mind. He agreed readily today, so I was more cautious. Maybe in the afternoon. I can't go back now. Then I took a detour to buy a miniature camera and fixed it on the button of my clothes. Then I took the divorce agreement and went home. As soon as I entered the house, I saw that the house was in a mess, as if it had been robbed. The whole house was smashed. Seeing me, Brian stood up from the sofa. Callista, that's enough. You've started to slander Bonnie now, right? I just learned from him that when I sent him a message, Bonnie was beside him. After seeing it, she cried and said that she didn't know how she had offended me. She hadn't done anything wrong but was still slandered. She was so ashamed that she almost hit her head against the wall and committed suicide. I shook my head, thinking that she could only use this trick to deceive Brian. I haven't asked you yet why she was by your side in the morning. Brian lied without blinking an eye. We worked overtime together all night. Isn't that okay? He hurriedly brought the subject back to cover up his guilty conscience. If I hadn't stopped him in time, Bonnie would have died. What's your attitude? He became more and more angry as he spoke, and he grabbed the glass at hand and threw it at me. I hurriedly dodged, but was still hit on the arm by the glass. I covered my arm in pain. When I bent over, Brian rushed to my side in one step, holding the broken glass that he had picked up from the ground at some point. He pressed me on the sofa and put the sharp glass against my neck. How many times have I told you that Bonnie and I are just ordinary friends? How long are you going to make such a fuss? Is it nice to let the neighbors hear us quarreling every day? Brian is a face-conscious person. He cares about his own face every day. He married me for the sake of face. At least in the eyes of outsiders. I am beautiful, independent and strong. No worse than Bonnie and the girlfriends of his brothers. He disguised himself very well. Until after marriage, his attitude gradually became cold. Since Bonnie came back, he not only seemed to have become a different person, often scolding me, but also began to worry about Bonnie's face. Thinking of the last life, he slandered me for his own face, made me suffer from everyone's dirty words, and even poisoned his own flesh and blood. I was so angry that I didn't know where the strength came from. And I pushed Brian away. For Brian didn't expect that I, who had always been docile, would resist so fiercely this time. He staggered after being pushed by me, and the water in the cup just now spilled on the ground. His feet slipped, and he sat directly on a pile of broken glass. His head also hit the corner of the table. A scream rang out. The sharp sound made the voice-controlled lights in the corridor light up. Brian covered his wounds with his hands and wailed. But there were too many wounds and his 2 hands were obviously not enough. The scene was a little funny for a while. Seeing me raise the corner of his mouth, Brian was furious. Just as he was about to stand up with his hands pressed on other glass fragments, and blood flowed immediately. He really couldn't threaten me with force. So he could only stare at me angrily and curse, "Callista, are you crazy? Still laughing? What's so funny? Come and help me up." I stepped back a few steps further. "But you are bleeding. AIDS can be transmitted through blood. I'm afraid you will infect me." Brian was at a loss for a moment, and a trace of impatience flashed across his face. "What nonsense are you talking about? If I have that kind of disease, it was also transmitted from you. I know. No wonder you are always suspicious of Bonnie and me. You have done this yourself. It's happening again, just like in the last life." He just opened his mouth with slander and suspicion without even thinking. I stepped further away, pinching my nose just like he did to me before. "Anyway, judging from the amount of bleeding, he won't die. Are you okay? The results of our physical examination just came out, and we're both healthy. I haven't slept in the same bedroom as you in the past few days. So of course, it can't be me, and I never said it was Bonnie. Why are you panicking?" When Brian saw my expression, he looked angry and annoyed. He raised his finger and pointed at my nose for a long time but couldn't say a complete sentence. I curled the corners of my lips. "Do you dare to make a bet with me? What? Let's take a video and post it online. And bet that you have a disease. This time, I want him to take off his mask in person." Brian's face turned a little ugly. Maybe he had already noticed something wrong with his body but had never taken it seriously. "If there really is a problem with your health, you should just sign the divorce agreement honestly and stop wasting my time. You also have to apologize for all the doubts you've raised about me before." Brian immediately asked, "What if you lose?" Obviously, he still didn't believe what I was saying. "If I lose, I'll publicly apologize to you and Bonnie, and never mention divorce again." Brian was still angry and couldn't stand my provocation. Moreover, he firmly believed in Bonnie. At this point, he was extremely furious and couldn't wait to see me embarrass myself in front of everyone. So he agreed without hesitation. He was hit hard on the back of his head and really didn't have the strength to stand up. I threw his phone to him, and he called the emergency number himself. The medical staff arrived quickly. I didn't forget to remind them to wear gloves. He might have a contagious disease. The medical staff looked at Brian with a bit of frustration. Why hadn't he told them earlier? Brian still wanted to be stubborn, but the staff had already put on gloves and masks. They didn't believe him when they saw it. He had to glare at me, swallow his pride, shut up, and stop talking. After many examinations, the doctor said he was fine except for a deep wound on his leg that required 5 stitches. The rest of his injuries only needed rest. I raised my phone, recorded the content of the bet video, hit send, and tagged several gossip-hungry influencers. 3 hours later, I looked at the examination report the nurse sent. Brian's brows were furrowed tightly. I stood behind him and saw the words, "pending review," written on it. Brian scratched his head fiercely and finally began to doubt himself. What does pending review mean? He pulled the nurse aside, trying to find a last bit of hope. Further confirmation is needed. Please wait patiently, she replied. Brian was disturbed by the result all day. During that time, he picked up his phone several times, wanting to call Bonnie to ask what was going on. But he was afraid I would catch him, since I was always by his side. Meanwhile, the app that released the video kept popping up with notifications. His nerves were nearly shot, and he didn't dare to touch his phone again. In the evening, the video quickly climbed to the top of the trending list. Some people even held a poll. More than 90% believed it must be Brian's problem. I was amazed. How did these netizens predict the future when the results hadn't come out yet? Brian panicked even more, but he remained stubborn. Who said that? The result hasn't come out yet. Before he could finish, the nurse called his name. Seeing the word positive written in black and white on the test result, Brian's face turned as pale as paper. What should he do now? He looked at the nurse as if she were his last hope. The nurse shook her head. For this disease, the blocking rate is still very high if the medicine is taken within 2 hours of exposure. But if it exceeds 2 hours, or now, since it's been over 24 hours, all you can do is take the medication on time. The last bit of light in Brian's eyes dimmed. After sitting in silence for a long time, all the emotions he had bottled up finally burst out. He picked up his phone and scrolled to Bonnie's name, ready to call, but before he could press the dial button, his mother called first. Brian, I saw the video. Is that you? You look exactly like him. Hearing Brian's silence, his mother understood. No, how could it be? Was it Callista, that awful girl? Brian didn't argue, only replied with a few wooden s and s. His mother clearly misunderstood and thought she'd guessed right, so she scolded even more harshly. I told you from the beginning there was something wrong with Callista just by looking at her. Her face, it's one of those used to seduce people. You can't be the only one she's tricked. If she touched you, she's no good. Besides, she's vain and not worthy of you. In my previous life, even though Brian's mother and I weren't close, I always thought we had a peaceful coexistence. Everything seemed fine on the surface. It wasn't until I died that I realized she'd mocked me countless times behind my back. Before Bonnie returned, Brian's attitude toward me gradually grew cold, and she was definitely responsible. If I used to hold back out of respect for her age and status, now that I've died once, hearing her spew the same old slander, I suddenly feel there's no need to endure it anymore. People only live once, and we all die eventually. So why not live freely and stop wronging ourselves? I directly chimed in loudly from the side. Auntie, listen to yourself. You say both the good and the bad. If I could learn how to say one thing to someone's face and another behind their back like you do, my family would definitely be more harmonious. If you have nothing to do, go brush your teeth more often. I can smell it through the screen. Such a handsome guy is so capable. It's a pity he doesn't do any hard labor. What kind of person is your son? Don't you know it yourself? Brian's mother is usually the one who bosses others around. When have you ever been this angry? Callista, it's better when you're around. You've hurt my son like this and still have the nerve to scold me. Believe it or not, I will expose your bad deeds. There's a hint of threat in her tone, and a bit of smugness, as if she thinks this can really scare me. But I'm no longer the timid Callista I used to be. They say a child's IQ follows the mother. And it's true, your son was harshly criticized under that post. Are you really blind, or just pretending not to see it? Brian's mother was furious. Brian, this is the good wife you insisted on marrying. You're taking her side now, aren't you? Your mother was insulted like that and you said nothing. Before, whenever there was conflict between us, Brian would always defend his mother, saying things like, she's my mom. It's not easy for her. She's an elder. Just endure it. He has said nearly every classic excuse of a scumbag. But now, he's like a clay Buddha crossing a river, unable to save even himself. Naturally, he has no energy to care about trivial matters. After a few sharp shouts from Brian's mother, Brian's eyes slowly regained focus. But instead of defending her, he opened his mouth to say, Mom, just stop talking. It's already a mess here." Without waiting for a reply, he hung up and immediately called Bonnie. "Come to the hospital now. I have something to ask you." Bonnie thought Brian was injured and saw this as an opportunity to prove herself. She agreed and rushed over. But instead of praise, she received a loud slap from Brian, covering her face with tears in her eyes. Bonnie looked pitiful. "Brian, what's going on? Did I do something wrong? Or did Sister Callista say something to you again?" She turned to me, bowed deeply, and apologized. "Sister Callista, I don't know how I offended you. I apologize. If you don't like me, I'll leave." She still tried to drive a wedge between us like before, pointing fingers at me. In the past, whenever she did this, Brian would blame me. But this time, now that he knew the truth, he didn't react. He just stared at Bonnie, making her uneasy. What had happened to Brian? I spoke slowly. "We're not fools. Bonnie, stop pretending. Brian's medical report is out. If he believed you, would he have called you here?" She looked at the report thrown at her, still trying to deny it. "What does this have to do with me?" Brian clenched his fists, his eyes bloodshot. "Don't lie. My last physical exam was just a few days ago, less than a week. I remember exactly who I was with. I ask myself honestly, I did nothing to betray you. Why did you hurt me?" What Brian couldn't accept wasn't just the betrayal, but the fact that the woman he placed so high, the pure white moonlight in his heart, had not only fallen but tried to drag him down with her. Bonnie's eyes turned red as he shouted, "I didn't know. I really didn't know. I'm sorry, Brian. I didn't mean to. I didn't do anything wrong. It was last year. I was raped by several people." Tears rolled down like a broken string of pearls, and she covered her mouth, sobbing. Brian's expression froze. Half the anger on his face vanished, replaced by heartache. "Bonnie, why didn't you tell me?" Bonnie sobbed and shook her head. "I tried hard to escape that dark time. Every time I remembered it, it was torture. But believe me, I didn't know I had a problem. If I did, I would never have come back. If I'm lying, let me be hit by a car." She raised 3 fingers and swore. Before she could finish, Brian covered her mouth. "I believe you. Don't say such things." I was too tired of watching them be affectionate. I took out the divorce papers and threw them at Brian. "Just sign and admit defeat. Once it's done, we have nothing to do with each other. We won't hate each other. I promise I'll never show up again. I'll be the kind of ex who knows how to disappear, no matter what happens between you two." They both turned to me and said in unison, "We can't sign." I was stunned. Bonnie reached for my hand, but I pulled away. She looked hurt and withdrew her hand. "Sister Callista, I don't want to ruin your relationship because of me. Maybe I should leave." Brian held Bonnie's hand and took a deep breath, as if he'd made a decision. Then he said to me, "If this gets out, it'll ruin Bonnie's reputation, since you were the one who suggested filming the video. And now it's caused all this chaos. I hope you'll come forward and take responsibility. Just say you infected me. Protect Bonnie. Once it's over, I'll sign the divorce papers." I looked at him like he was insane. "We're both women. Bonnie's reputation matters, but mine doesn't." I suggested filming. "Yes, but you agreed, didn't you? If you two hadn't fooled around, none of this would have happened. You promised to sign, and now you're backing out again. Why should I trust you? Sign or don't, I don't care. Once the storm is over, the court notice I sent will arrive. This is your 3rd time trying to trick me with the same excuse. Keep dreaming." I went home and fell asleep quickly after a long and exhausting day. When I woke up again, the messages on my phone had exploded. I saw 99+ pop up in the upper right corner of the video app. I was stunned for a long time and clicked on it mechanically. There were countless private messages from people, all of them scolding me. "You staged it yourself. Your kung fu is quite good. And your acting skills aren't bad. You fooled everyone. Are people so shameless now? They bring up this kind of thing and talk about it with confidence. Which man would be unlucky enough to marry you? He'd get sick and be blamed. It's really miserable." I checked the video app again and found that after the bet video Brian and I shot last night went viral, several more videos were leaked. They were all malicious clips about me, showing me entering and leaving a hotel with various men. However, the men around me and the hotel background looked familiar. Thinking back carefully, it was the hotel where my friend used to work. There was no need to investigate further, it was exposed. It was Bonnie's doing again. Maybe Brian's mother was involved too. Although Bonnie wasn't a good person, it was hard to imagine her doing something this bad on her own. In fact, in her previous life, she never intended for Brian to infect me. She just wanted to be with him. But last time, the person who ultimately pushed public opinion was Brian's mother. Although her methods differed both times, she took advantage of the fact that I had just given birth and was weak, unable to get out of bed. In front of me, she loudly told the doctors and other patients in the hospital that I was promiscuous and lacked self-discipline. Almost all the patients covered their noses when they saw me, as if I were the plague, and stayed far away. The various looks mixed with fear, judgment, malice, and blame still make me uncomfortable to this day. My previous mental breakdown was inseparable from these rumors. But the facts have proven to me that once you fall into the trap of self-defense, you're forced into endless cycles of proving yourself. Since they were unkind, they shouldn't blame me for being unjust. I pulled up several videos I had recorded as evidence and posted them intact. The first was the original, unedited video of Bonnie entering and leaving the hotel with another man. The second was the video of Bonnie and Brian entering and leaving the hotel that night. The third was footage recorded by a micro camera hidden in a button on my clothes, showing the full process of him abusing me at home that afternoon. In addition, there was an audio clip of the sounds I heard when I rushed to the hotel that night. I released them all. At that moment, everything exploded. Within minutes, our story topped the trending search list. But there was a twist. At first, people thought the man was unfaithful. Then the video proved it was the woman. Now they were scolding the man again. Let's not even talk about who cheated. There's no justification for domestic violence. Who's real and who's fake? No one told me eating melons, gossiping, could be so mentally exhausting. Actually, the matter is simple. The same background appeared twice, but with different people. So one is real, the other fake. Do I even need to explain that? I'm just waiting for some video editing expert to help confirm it. I exited the comment section and set the app to Do Not Disturb. Then calmly ordered takeout. Sometimes there's no need to argue. As long as you lay out the facts for everyone, the truth speaks for itself. Let the dust settle. After a full meal, there was an update. A user compared the two videos and confirmed that the ones I posted were original, while the other account's videos were maliciously edited and face-swapped. There was also an unexpected outcome. 3 or 5 people came forward, claiming to be the men who had gone to the hotel with Bonnie. Thanks to the blogger, I was worried I'd never find her. 5 months ago, I met the girl in the video through an online game. We quickly got into a relationship. The night we made it official, she took me to a bar, pretended to be drunk, and asked me to take her home. Afterward, she wouldn't let me leave and we had sex. The next day, she sent me a breakup text. Her attitude had completely changed. I thought she was upset about what happened and kept apologizing. But she blocked me. From then on, it was like she vanished. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find her. Half a month later, I started to feel unwell. Not seriously ill, but something wasn't right. I went for a checkup and found out I'd been infected. Several others had similar stories. Some met her through friends, others randomly in a museum. Everyone had different ways of encountering Bonnie. Now, netizens completely turned on Bonnie. The entire comment section was filled with criticism of Brian and Bonnie. You two should be locked up. Scumbags deserve each other. Don't come out and harm others. Are you even a man? Who knows who you've been with? When something went wrong, you pushed the blame onto the girl. In the other ward, Brian angrily threw his mobile phone, hitting Bonnie squarely on the forehead. She didn't dodge but picked up the phone and gave it back to Brian. Brian, I really like you. You're just afraid that no one will dare to marry you. Do you want to find a sucker to take over the rest of your life? Brian was finally no longer fooled by her fake appearance. But it was too late. Brian's mother handed him some water. Son, don't be angry. I'll think of a way. Brian waved his hand, and the hot water spilled directly onto his mother, scalding her and making her wail. I told you not to cause trouble. If you hadn't taken the initiative to find those people to deliberately smear Callista, the matter wouldn't have become so serious. No one explained or clarified anything. It would have blown over in a few days at most. But you were afraid it wasn't serious enough. You're not just muddying the water. You're trying to destroy me. Brian's mother clapped her hands, stomped her feet, and turned around in place. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Fine, I'm leaving. I won't cause any more trouble for you. Seeing Brian's expression worsen, Bonnie didn't dare to stay any longer and quietly slipped away. After I found out the whole story, I called the police. I told them about Brian's domestic violence and how he had teamed up with his mother and Bonnie to slander and defame me. The police quickly launched an investigation. In the end, Brian was sentenced to 1 year in prison, and his mother was sentenced to 3 years. She never imagined that what she thought was just an ordinary quarrel with some petty tricks would land her in jail. People may not teach people, but events certainly do. From now on, she will probably learn to keep her mouth shut, and if she doesn't, someone in prison will make sure she does. As for Bonnie, in addition to slandering and defaming me, several others also filed complaints against her, accusing her of extortion, fraud, and other crimes. After all, aside from spreading infections, she had also manipulated people into spending large amounts of money while dating or pursuing her. Bonnie was sentenced to a full 5 years. In the short term, I can finally enjoy a quiet life without seeing these annoying people or being involved in such toxic situations. Moreover, this scandal caused a huge uproar. Even if Brian gets out of prison, people will still remember his actions. He and Bonnie will never be together again. For them, dying alone might be the harshest punishment. The court's divorce ruling for Brian and me has been finalized. We are now free from the legal bonds and have returned to independent lives. Although I still occasionally think of the innocent little life lost in my previous life, the current outcome feels like some form of justice for her. On a small hill in the south, I planted a tree to commemorate the daughter who didn't survive. I hope it can enjoy the sunshine and grow strong in her place. As for me, since God has given me a chance to start over, I will seize it and live the life I truly want. I packed my bags and boarded the plane to City A, watching the clouds drift by through the window and feeling the warmth of the sun on my skin. I knew a new chapter was beginning at that very moment.